The Awakening. The holographic display in the council chamber dimmed as Captain Evelyn Frost concluded her presentation. 4 millennia of peace had transformed humanity from feared warriors into respected diplomats, scientists, and explorers. The 700 human colonies spread across the galactic arm stood as testament to their success. And that concludes the century review of our diplomatic relations with the myriad concordance, Frost said, her voice clear and confident. At 35, she was considered young for her position as ambassador to the galactic community, but her brilliance had propelled her through the ranks. High Counselor Javier Ortiz, his dark eyes showing the wisdom of his 90 years, nodded appreciatively. Excellent work as always, Captain. Our relations with the 47 species of the Concordance have never been stronger. The chamber, with its soaring crystalline dome that offered a view of New Geneva's gleaming spires, hummed with polite applause. None of the 12 council members seemed concerned by the small red notification pulsing at the edge of their neural interfaces. After all, minor colonial disputes were common in a peaceful galaxy. They would be handled through proper diplomatic channels. Only Frost noticed that the notification had been categorized as Priority Alpha, something that hadn't happened in her lifetime. Her neural implant pinged again, more insistently. When she discreetly accessed it, the message froze her blood. Colony Epsilon Horizon contact lost. Colony Nova Prime under attack. Colony Trappist Haven destroyed. Captain Frost, called a voice from the entrance. A young aide stood there, face pale. Your presence is requested in the Emergency Operations Center, immediately. The council members looked up, confusion evident on their faces. Emergency Operations Center. The facility had been largely ceremonial for centuries. If you'll excuse me, Frost said, maintaining her composure as she gathered her presentation materials. As she followed the aide through the gleaming corridors of the council tower, her mind raced. 3 colonies going dark simultaneously wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't a natural disaster. It wasn't a communications failure. It was an attack. General Darius Vega had been tending his vineyard when they came for him. At 74, his hands were more accustomed to the tender care of grapes than the controls of a warship. His silver hair caught the Mediterranean sunlight as he straightened, observing the sleek government shuttle landing among his vines. They're trampling the Syrah, he grumbled to himself, though his weathered face showed more curiosity than annoyance. 2 figures emerged from the shuttle. One, a woman in the formal blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, Captain Frost, he realized. He'd seen her broadcasts. The other was a tall man in a simple gray suit that practically screamed security service. General Vega, Frost called as they approached. I apologize for the intrusion. Vega raised an eyebrow. I haven't been general for 20 years, Captain. What brings Earth's rising diplomatic star to my humble vineyard? The security man remained stone-faced, but Frost's expression was grave. Authorization code, sleeping sword. Vega's blood ran cold. That code hadn't been used in his lifetime. It was only to be invoked if... Who's attacking us? He asked, all traces of the retired vintner vanishing as he straightened his posture. We don't know, Frost admitted. 3 outer colonies have been hit, no communication from the attackers, no demands, just destruction. Vega nodded once. I need 10 minutes to get my affairs in order here. The security man finally spoke. Sir, we have orders to bring you immediately. 10 minutes, Vega repeated, his voice carrying the unmistakable tone of command. Unless you'd prefer a senile old man who's forgotten where he left his teeth. Frost's lips twitched in a suppressed smile. 10 minutes, General. The Emergency Operations Center beneath New Geneva had been built into the bedrock of the Alps 4,000 years ago and maintained meticulously ever since. The facility hummed with activity for the first time in centuries as Frost and Vega stepped out of the elevator. Captain Frost, General Vega, acknowledged Secretary of Defense Naveen Chandrasekhar, a slender man whose scholarly appearance belied his intelligence. Thank you for coming so quickly. The central holographic display showed a star map, with 3 pulsing red dots, the attacked colonies. "Show me what we know," Vega requested without preamble. The display shifted to grainy surveillance footage. Dark, angular ships with what appeared to be living tissue integrated into their hulls appeared suddenly above a peaceful colony world. Energy weapons of unknown configuration rained destruction upon the settlements below. "What species is that?" Frost asked, studying the alien vessels. "Unknown," Chandrasekhar replied. "They match no records in the Concordance Registry." "They're called the Shroud," came a voice from the doorway. All heads turned to see an elderly woman enter, leaning on an ornate cane. Despite her age, her eyes were sharp as flints. "Director Hernandez," Vega said with obvious surprise. "I thought you'd retired decades ago." "We both did, old friend," Lydia Hernandez replied, her voice raspy with age. "But some responsibilities never end." Frost looked between them. "You know these attackers." Hernandez nodded grimly. "Not from personal experience, from the archives." "The sealed archives?" Chandrasekhar asked, shock evident in his voice. "Those were supposed to be purely ceremonial, historical records with no practical value." "A convenient fiction," Hernandez said, approaching the display. "Humanity hasn't been as naive as we've appeared to our galactic neighbors. Some of us remembered that peace is fragile." She manipulated the controls with surprising dexterity, bringing up ancient files. Images of the same biomechanical ships, detailed tactical analyses, and disturbing anatomical studies of their pilots appeared. "The Shroud were encountered once, briefly, nearly 4,000 years ago during our early expansion," Hernandez explained. "A scout ship made contact, was attacked, and barely escaped. The encounter was classified and forgotten when the Galactic Accord was signed a decade later." "Why would they attack now after all this time?" Frost asked. Vega studied the tactical data. "More importantly, how do we fight back? Earth hasn't maintained a proper military in millennia." A small, tight smile formed on Hernandez's lips. "That's not entirely accurate, General." The orbital shipyards above Jupiter had been officially designated as historical preservation facilities for centuries. When Frost, Vega, and Hernandez arrived aboard their shuttle, the vast docking bay appeared to contain exactly what everyone believed it did. Ancient, ceremonial vessels kept functional for parades and educational tour. "This way," Hernandez said, leading them to a nondescript maintenance corridor. After a series of security scans that verified their genetic identities and neural patterns, a massive door slid open, revealing what lay behind the fabricated history. "My God," Frost whispered. An enormous warship hung in the hidden construction bay. Unlike the sleek, aesthetic vessels of modern human design, this ship bristled with weapon emplacements. Its hull was reinforced with materials Frost couldn't identify, and its engines glowed with barely contained power. "The EDF Valiant," Hernandez announced with unmistakable pride. "Earth's last warship, maintained in secret for 4,000 years by the Sentinel Protocol." Vega walked to the observation window, his eyes wide. "I knew about the protocol's existence, but this is beyond anything I imagined." "The Valiant has been continuously upgraded with technologies reverse-engineered from the most advanced species we've encountered," Hernandez explained, "all while maintaining the appearance of a species that had forgotten how to wage war." Frost shook her head in disbelief. "How was this kept secret, the resources required?" "Hidden in plain sight," Hernandez replied. "Defense budget allocated to historical preservation, technological research classified as theoretical studies, and a very, very small number of people who understood the true purpose." A junior officer approached, saluting crisply. "Director, the crew you requested has assembled in the briefing room." Hernandez nodded. "Thank you, Lieutenant Acaffer." She turned to Frost and Vega. "Now comes the difficult part. We have a ship, we have weapons. What we don't have is a crew that remembers how to fight." The briefing room aboard the Valiant held 30 people, scientists, engineers, and theoretical military historians who had been quietly selected and prepared for a day everyone hoped would never come. Frost studied them as Vega outlined the situation. Most looked terrified. A few seemed excited. None looked like warriors. "We have confirmed that the colony of Nova Prime is still under active attack," Vega concluded. "The Shroud ships appear to be methodically destroying all infrastructure. Their strategy suggests they're looking for something specific." A hand raised hesitantly. A woman with short-cropped hair and dark skin spoke up. "Dr. Zuri Okolo, Xenobiology, is there any indication what they might be searching for?" Hernandez stepped forward. "We believe they're looking for Project Phoenix." The room fell silent. "That's just a myth," said a tall man with Nordic features. "An academic thought experiment." "Project Phoenix is very real, Dr. Lindstrom," Hernandez replied. "It was developed 4,000 years ago during the early days of the Galactic Accord, a failsafe against the day humanity might need to remember how to fight." Frost felt a chill run down her spine. What exactly is Project Phoenix? Hernandez's gaze swept the room. "Humanity wasn't always as we are now. Before the peace, we were feared across charted space for our ferocity, adaptability, and our unique neurological architecture. When we signed the Accord, we didn't just lay down our weapons. We changed ourselves neural modifications that dampened our aggressive instincts, rewired our threat responses." "We neutered ourselves," Vega said bluntly. "We evolved," Hernandez corrected. "But we created Phoenix as insurance, a means to reverse those changes if necessary." "And the Shroud know about this?" Frost asked. "It appears so," Hernandez confirmed. "The question is how, and why now after all this time?" An alarm sounded, and Lieutenant Ockhaffer's voice came over the intercom. "Director Hernandez, General Vega, we're receiving a distress call from Nova Prime. They're streaming visual." The main screen activated, showing a harried-looking colony official. Behind him, people ran in panic as buildings burned. "This is Administrator Ibarra of Nova Prime," the man said, his voice remarkably steady despite the chaos. "We are under attack by unknown forces. Our defensive systems are non-functional. Casualties are—" He swallowed hard. "Casualties are extensive. We require immediate evacuation assistance." An explosion rocked his location, and the camera view tilted wildly. "They're targeting our shelters," Ibarra continued, desperation creeping into his voice. "These aren't random attacks. They know exactly where our people are hiding." The feed cut to static. Vega turned to the assembled crew. "You all know why you were selected for the Sentinel Protocol. Each of you has the genetic markers and neural architecture that made humanity such effective warriors in the past. The modifications that pacified our species took less completely in your bloodlines." He straightened to his full height, and despite his age, he suddenly looked every inch the general he had once been. "You are not soldiers yet, but you carry the potential of our ancestors who crossed the stars and made the galaxy tremble. Today, we awaken that heritage." Frost watched as determination replaced fear in the eyes of the crew. "Captain Frost," Vega said, turning to her, "your diplomatic expertise makes you uniquely qualified to serve as my first officer. We may yet need those skills." Frost nodded, surprising herself with her ready acceptance of the role. "Dr. Okolo, you're our expert on xenobiology. Work with Dr. Lindstrom to analyze everything we know about the Shroud. Find weaknesses." "Director Hernandez," Vega continued, "I need everything from the sealed archives on combat tactics against the Shroud." Hernandez nodded, already being transferred to the ship's computers. "The rest of you to your assigned stations," Vega ordered. "We launch in 30 minutes. The colony at Nova Prime still holds, and we will not abandon them." As the crew dispersed with newfound purpose, Frost approached Vega. "General, I've spent my life as a diplomat. I don't know if I can." "Kill," Vega finished for her. "None of us do, not anymore, but 4,000 years ago, when threatened, humanity discovered it could do terrible things to survive." His eyes held hers. "Let's hope we remember how." The Valiant emerged from Jupiter's shadow, its massive engines flaring to life as it accelerated toward the jump point. On the bridge, the crew worked with increasing confidence as ancient training protocols awakened dormant neural pathways. Jump coordinates locked on Nova Prime, reported Navigator Tenzin from his station. Estimated arrival in 47 minutes. In the captain's chair, General Vega nodded. Weapons status. Weapons Officer Chiu looked up from her console, her eyes wide with wonder. Sir, these systems, they're beyond anything in our technical literature. The ship is teaching me how to use them. The Valiant's AI has been preparing for this day for millennia, Hernandez explained from her advisory position. It knows humanity would forget. It's designed to help us remember. Frost studied the tactical display showing the situation at Nova Prime. 5 shroud vessels surrounded the colony, methodically destroying sectors one by one. They're searching, she observed. The pattern isn't random destruction. They're looking for something specific. Phoenix, Vega agreed. But why would they think it's at Nova Prime? Dr. Okolo approached the command deck, tablet in hand. General, I've been analyzing the shroud attack pattern across all 3 colonies. They're targeting research facilities first, then population centers. Nova Prime houses our largest xenobiology research station, Frost realized. Could they believe Phoenix is biological in nature? It is, partially, Hernandez confirmed. A combination of genetic keys and neurological templates. The full project exists in only one location, but research components were distributed among our scientific outposts. The ship shuddered slightly as it approached the jump point. All hands prepare for jump, Vega announced. When we arrive, we'll have seconds to assess and respond. Frost felt her heart pounding. 4,000 years of peace had not prepared humanity for this moment. Yet somehow, as the stars blurred around them and the Valiant leapt across light years, she felt something awakening within her. Something old, something that remembered how to fight. The Valiant emerged from jump space directly behind the smallest shroud vessel. Before the alien ship could react, the Valiant's weapons systems activated, precisely targeting propulsion and communication arrays. First blood to humanity, Vega murmured as the shroud ship listed helplessly. Let's remind them why they should have chosen another species to threaten. The remaining shroud vessels turned from their bombardment of Nova Prime, their attention now fixed on the newcomer that had dared to challenge them. Humanity's first battle in 4 millennia had begun, the reckoning. The Valiant shuddered as shroud energy weapons impacted its shields. On the bridge, status indicators flashed from green to amber. Shields at 78%, reported Lieutenant Ockhaffer, her fingers dancing across the tactical console with increasing confidence. The shroud vessels are coordinating their attack pattern. Captain Frost studied the tactical display. The 4 remaining shroud ships had arranged themselves in a formation that allowed overlapping fields of fire while protecting their vulnerable propulsion systems, the weakness the Valiant had exploited on the first vessel. They adapt quickly, Frost observed. General Vega nodded grimly. Return fire, target the lead vessel's weapon arrays. Weapons Officer Chiu activated the main battery. Brilliant energy lanced across space, striking the shroud flagship. The alien vessel's outer hull rippled as if alive, absorbing some of the impact. Minimal damage, Chiu reported, frustration evident in her voice. Their biomechanical hulls seemed to heal themselves. Dr. Okolo approached the command platform, her dark eyes wide with realization. General, Captain, the shroud vessels aren't just ships with biological components. They're living organisms integrated with technology. Those aren't crew members piloting them, they're more like neurons in a larger brain. Vega's eyes narrowed. You're saying the ships themselves are sentient? More than that, Okolo continued. I believe they're a single distributed consciousness. That's why they coordinate so perfectly. Frost turned to Director Hernandez. Is there anything in the archives about this? The elderly woman shook her head. Our ancestors' encounter with them was brief. They never had the chance to study the shroud in combat. The ship rocked again as another barrage struck their shields. Shields at 62%, Okafor reported. They're focusing fire on our starboard quadrant. Divert power to compensate, Vega ordered. Navigator Tenzin, bring us about. Keep our strongest shields facing their primary weapons. As the Valiant maneuvered, Frost noticed something on the tactical display. The shroud vessels are keeping us away from the colony. They're still searching the surface even while engaging us. Whatever they're looking for at Nova Prime, they want it badly, Vega agreed. He turned to Director Hernandez. We need to know exactly what components of Project Phoenix were at that research station. Hernandez accessed a secure terminal. Nova Prime housed research on the neurological activation protocols, the triggers that would reawaken humanity's dormant combat instincts. Dr. Lindstrom joined them, his tall frame tense with nervous energy. If the Shroud get those protocols, they might be able to prevent Phoenix from working, or worse, turn it against us somehow. We need to evacuate the research personnel immediately, Frost decided, and secure or destroy any Phoenix data. Vega nodded. Prepare evacuation shuttles. I want a ground team ready in 5 minutes. Sir, Okafor interrupted, we're receiving a transmission from the surface. It's Administrator Ibarra. The main screen activated, showing the colony administrator. He was bloodied now, taking cover in what appeared to be a reinforced laboratory. Valiant, thank the stars, Ibarra said, his voice strained. The Shroud have landed ground forces. They're converging on the main research complex. We've activated emergency protocols, but we can't hold them off much longer. We're sending help, Vega assured him. What's your situation? Approximately 300 colonists have taken refuge in the emergency shelters. The science team is with me in the central lab. We've initiated purge protocols on the Phoenix data, but... Ibarra hesitated. There's something you should know. Dr. Evska wasn't just researching Phoenix protocols, she was implementing them. Hernandez stepped forward, shock evident on her aged face. Implementing without authorization. Ibarra's expression was grim. After the first colony fell, she feared we might be next. She began accelerating the program. There are test subjects, volunteers from the security detail. They've changed. Before Ibarra could elaborate, an explosion rocked his location. The feed cut to static. Frost turned to Vega. We need to move now. The general nodded. Captain Frost, you'll lead the ground team. Get our people out of there and secure whatever Phoenix research you can. If you can't extract it, destroy it. I need volunteers for the ground team, Frost announced, looking around the bridge. Dr. Okolo stepped forward immediately. I should go. I understand the xenobiology aspects of Phoenix better than anyone else here. I'll go as well, Dr. Lindstrom added, surprising everyone. If there are active Phoenix subjects, we need to assess their condition. 2 more officers. Lieutenant Commander Ryota Katsuo from Engineering and Security Officer Nikolai Volkov volunteered as well. 5 minutes to gear up, Frost ordered. Meet at the shuttle bay. As the team dispersed, Vega caught Frost's arm. Captain, if you encounter any Shroud on the ground, don't hesitate. 4,000 years ago, our ancestors discovered what these creatures do to captured humans. It's the reason the archives were sealed. The look in his eyes told Frost everything she needed to know. The combat shuttle cut through Nova Prime's atmosphere, weaving between Shroud energy blasts. From the cockpit, Frost could see the devastation below. The once pristine research colony now scarred with impact craters and burning structures. Coming in hot, announced Katsuo, who had taken the pilot's seat. The engineer handled the controls with surprising skill. The main research complex is 2 kilometers ahead, but there's no clear landing zone. Get us as close as you can, Frost ordered. We'll proceed on foot if necessary. The shuttle lurched as a Shroud weapon grazed its hull. Shields holding, but not for much longer, Katsuo reported. I see a landing pad on the south side of the complex. It's partially collapsed, but it might work. Frost nodded. Take us in. The shuttle descended rapidly, touching down on the damaged landing pad with a jarring impact. Frost activated the tactical display on her neural interface, accessing the colony schematics. Administrator Ibarra's last transmission came from the central laboratory on Sublevel 3, she told the team. Dr. Okolo, Dr. Lindstrom, focus on securing the Phoenix research and assessing any test subjects. Commander Katsuo, Officer Volkov, you're with me to locate survivors. The team exited the shuttle into chaos. The air was thick with smoke and the strange, metallic scent of Shroud weapons fire. In the distance, inhuman sounds echoed through the damaged buildings, clicking, chittering noises that sent primal shivers down Frost's spine. Stay together, she ordered. The nearest entrance is through that administrative building. They moved cautiously through the ruins, weapons ready. None of them were trained soldiers, but the Valiant's armory had provided them with simple-to-use energy weapons and basic tactical guidance through their neural interfaces. Inside the administrative building, they found the first bodies, colonists caught in the initial attack. Frost forced herself to remain focused, pushing aside the horror. 4 millennia of peace had not prepared humanity for such sights. Life signs ahead, Volkov reported, checking his scanner. Multiple humans in the stairwell leading down. They proceeded cautiously. At the stairwell entrance, they encountered a group of colonists led by a security officer whose arm was crudely bandaged. Captain Frost, Earth Defense Force, Frost introduced herself, though the designation felt strange on her tongue after so many years of peace. We're here to evacuate survivors. The security officer straightened. Officer Jenkins, Colony Security, we have 23 civilians here. More are gathered at Emergency Shelter B2. Our shuttle can take your group, Frost decided. Commander Katsuo will escort you there. We have a warship in orbit that will provide extraction for the others. As Katsuo led the survivors toward the landing pad, Frost turned to Jenkins. What can you tell us about the situation in the central laboratory? Jenkins's expression darkened. Dr. Ivska's team. They were working on something classified. When the attack began, they locked themselves in. We've had minimal communication since. And the Shroud ground forces. Like nothing I've ever seen, Jenkins said, his voice hollow. They move almost like insects, but they're intelligent, coordinated. They're searching methodically, level by level. Frost nodded. Get these people to safety. We'll handle the laboratory. As Jenkins followed after Katsuo, Frost led the remaining team members deeper into the facility. The power was intermittent, emergency lighting casting eerie shadows along the corridors. 2 levels down, Frost instructed, leading them to a maintenance shaft when they found the main elevators disabled. They descended in tense silence, the distant sounds of Shroud activity growing louder. At Sublevel 2, they encountered their first Shroud ground unit. The creature moved on 4 limbs, its body a disturbing blend of chitinous exoskeleton and technological components. Its head swiveled unnaturally as it searched through laboratory equipment, multiple eyes glowing with an internal light. Volkov raised his weapon, but Frost held up a hand. The Shroud hadn't noticed them yet. She studied its movements, looking for weaknesses. The creature suddenly stiffened, its head turning toward them with frightening precision. It emitted a high-pitched sound, a signal to others of its kind. Take it down, Frost ordered. Volkov fired, his energy weapon striking the Shroud directly. The creature convulsed but didn't fall. Dr. Lindstrom fired next, then Frost and Okolo joined in. Under their combined fire, the Shroud finally collapsed, its biomechanical body twitching before going still. They're resilient, Frost observed, her pulse racing. Dr. Okolo, what can you tell us? The xenobiologist approached cautiously, scanning the creature. Fascinating and horrifying. Its biological components are integrated with technology at the cellular level. I've never seen anything like it. Is it dead? Lindstrom asked. I don't think dead applies in the conventional sense, Okolo replied. It's more like offline. The biological components could potentially regenerate if the technological systems reactivate. Keep moving, Frost ordered, unnerved by the implication. We need to reach the central lab before more arrive. They continued downward, encountering two more Shroud units that they managed to disable after intense firefights. Frost felt something strange happening to her during these encounters, her reactions becoming faster, her tactical assessments more intuitive. It was as if dormant neural pathways were reactivating under stress. Finally, they reached Sublevel 3. The entrance to the central laboratory was sealed with emergency bulkheads. Administrator Ibarra, Frost called through the communication panel. This is Captain Frost from the Valiant. We're here to extract you and your team. After a moment, the intercom crackled. Captain, this is Dr. Ivska. Ibarra is. He didn't make it. We have the Phoenix data secured, but... Her voice trailed off. Dr. Ivska, we need to evacuate now, Frost insisted. The Shroud are systematically searching the facility. They'll reach this level soon. You don't understand, Ivska replied, her voice suddenly stronger. Phoenix isn't just data, it's them, my volunteers, they're the key. The bulkhead began to rise. As it did, Frost and her team raised their weapons, unsure what they would find. The laboratory beyond was a state-of-the-art research facility, now partially destroyed by internal explosions. Deliberate sabotage, Frost realized, to protect sensitive equipment from Shroud capture. Dr. Ivska stood near the entrance, a small, intense woman with close-cropped gray hair and the focused eyes of a brilliant scientist pushed to extremes. Behind her, 6 individuals in security uniforms stood unnaturally still, their eyes alert in a way that made Frost instinctively wary. Captain, Ivska greeted them. You've arrived just in time. Meet the Phoenix Guardians, the first humans in 4 millennia to undergo complete neural reversion. Dr. Lindstrom pushed forward. You actually implemented the protocols without authorization. When the first colony fell, I knew what was coming, Ivska replied unapologetically. These volunteers underwent the procedure 2 weeks ago. They're the prototype for what humanity must become again if we're to survive. Frost studied the Guardians with unease. They appeared human, but their stance, their gaze, something fundamental had changed. What exactly did you do to them? She asked. Reverse the neural dampening that's been part of human DNA for 4,000 years, Ivska explained. Reactivated the dormant pathways that made our ancestors such effective warriors. Enhanced reaction times, heightened threat assessment, instinctive tactical analysis. All the traits we engineered out of ourselves when we embraced peace. One of the Guardians stepped forward, a tall woman with sharp features. Commander Jasmine Torres, she introduced herself. Former head of colony security. What the doctor isn't telling you is that we volunteered because we saw this coming. The Shroud sent infiltration units disguised as trading vessels months ago. They were studying us, learning our weaknesses. Why didn't you alert Earth? Frost demanded. We tried, Torres replied. Our messages were intercepted. The Shroud have been planning this for years. A distant explosion rocked the facility. We need to move, Frost decided. Dr. Ivska, gather whatever data you can't afford to lose. We're evacuating now. There's more, Ivska insisted. The Phoenix protocols aren't just about the Guardians. They're designed to cascade, to spread the neural reversion throughout the human population when activated by the right trigger. Dr. Okolo looked alarmed. You're talking about fundamentally changing our species without consent. I'm talking about survival, Ivska shot back. The Shroud won't stop with a few colonies. They want to ensure humanity never becomes a threat to them. Before the argument could continue, Volkov interrupted. Multiple contacts approaching, Shroud ground units at least a dozen. Commander Torres turned to her fellow Guardians. Defensive positions, Protocol 7. The Guardians moved with frightening efficiency, taking up strategic positions around the laboratory's entrance. Their movements were fluid, precise, inhuman in their perfection. Get the civilians to the secondary exit, Torres instructed Frost. We'll hold them here. Frost hesitated. You can't possibly. This is what we were made for, Captain, Torres cut her off. The Phoenix rises from ashes. Go, ensure our sacrifice means something. Before Frost could protest further, The first Shroud units appeared at the corridor junction. What followed defied everything she thought she knew about human capabilities. The Guardians engaged the Shroud with devastating effectiveness. They anticipated every move the alien creatures made, exploiting weaknesses Frost hadn't even noticed. It was beautiful and terrifying, like watching predators who had found their natural prey. "We need to go," Dr. Lindstrom urged, pulling Frost away from the spectacle. "They're buying us time." Reluctantly, Frost led the remaining team members and Dr. Evska toward the secondary exit. The scientist clutched a data core to her chest, the complete Phoenix protocols. "You understand what this means," Evska said as they hurried through the maintenance tunnels. "Humanity must change or perish. There is no middle ground with the Shroud." Frost's communicator chimed. "Captain, this is General Vega. The Shroud fleet is regrouping. Whatever you're doing down there, do it quickly." "We have survivors and critical data," Frost reported. "Requesting emergency extraction from the northeast quadrant, Sector 7. "Sending shuttles now," Vega confirmed. "Be advised, we've detected a massive energy buildup in the largest Shroud vessel. They may be preparing to glass the entire colony." Frost quickened her pace. "Understood, we'll be ready." They emerged from the tunnels into what had once been a peaceful botanical garden, now reduced to ash and rubble. In the distance, Frost could see Shroud ground units converging on the research complex, drawn by the combat with the Guardians. "Extraction point is 400 meters ahead," Frost informed her team, checking the coordinates Vega had sent. As they crossed the ruined garden, Dr. Okolo suddenly grabbed Frost's arm. "Captain, look." In the sky above, the Valiant engaged the Shroud fleet. Energy weapons crisscrossed the blackness of space, visible even through Nova Prime's daylight atmosphere. One of the Shroud vessels was listing badly, venting atmosphere into space. "Vega's giving them hell," Volkov observed with grim satisfaction. They reached the extraction point just as the shuttle touched down. As they boarded, Frost looked back toward the research complex. There was no sign of the Guardians or Commander Tors. "We can't wait," she decided reluctantly. "Get us to the Valiant." The shuttle lifted off, accelerating hard toward orbit. Through the viewport, Frost watched as the largest Shroud vessel positioned itself above the colony. A terrible light gathered at its bow. "They're going to destroy everything," Dr. Evska whispered. "All evidence of Phoenix, all evidence of what they were searching for." The shuttle broke atmosphere, racing toward the Valiant, which was maneuvering to provide covering fire. Behind them, a beam of concentrated energy struck Nova Prime, vaporizing the research complex and everything around it for kilometers. On the Valiant's bridge, Frost delivered her report to General Vega. The Phoenix data was secured, but at a terrible cost. Over 2,000 colonists had perished, including Administrator Ibarra and the Guardians who had sacrificed themselves to ensure the evacuation. Dr. Evska believes the Shroud attacked specifically to find and destroy Project Phoenix, Frost concluded. "They fear what humanity might become if we reawaken our warrior heritage." Vega's expression was grave. "And what do you believe, Captain?" Frost hesitated. I saw something in those Guardians that both terrified and inspired me. They were still human, but they were more than what we've allowed ourselves to be for millennia. They fought with a purpose and clarity that we've forgotten." "The question now," Director Hernandez interjected, "is what we do with this knowledge. Do we implement Phoenix throughout human space? Do we revert 4,000 years of peaceful evolution?" The bridge fell silent as everyone contemplated the magnitude of this decision. Dr. Evska, who had been granted access to the bridge due to her unique knowledge, spoke up. "The Shroud won't stop with Nova Prime. They will hunt down every component of Phoenix, every colony that might house even fragments of the research. Then they will come for Earth itself." "The Shroud fleet is retreating," reported Lieutenant Ockefer. "They're breaking orbit, setting course away from Nova Prime." "Not retreating," Vega corrected. "Regrouping, they'll be back with reinforcements." Frost stepped to the tactical display, studying the star chart. 3 colonies attacked, all with Phoenix research components. But there are 15 more colonies with similar research facilities. We can't defend them all. We won't have to, Vega decided, his voice hardening with resolve. We're going to take the fight to them. Frost looked at him in surprise. Sir. The archives contain coordinates for the Shroud Home system, Vega explained. Our ancestors mapped it but never dared to approach. Now we have no choice. A preemptive strike? Frost asked, uncertain. A message, Vega corrected. 4,000 years ago, humanity was feared across the galaxy not just for our ferocity, but for our unpredictability. The Shroud believe they're hunting a weakened species that has forgotten how to fight. We need to show them their mistake. Director Hernandez nodded slowly. The Valiant was built for precisely this scenario. What about Phoenix? Dr. Evska pressed. Do we implement the protocols? Vega turned to Frost. Captain, you've seen the Guardians in action. You faced the Shroud directly. This decision affects all humanity. What say you? Frost felt the weight of 4,000 years of peace, and the echoes of a warrior heritage far older, as she considered her answer. Implement Phoenix, she said finally, but not as a cascade throughout the population. Let it be a choice. Let each human decide whether to reclaim that part of our heritage. And for those who choose not to change, Dr. Lindstrom asked. Then they will be what they have always been, Frost replied. The conscience of our species, the voice that reminds the warriors what we're fighting for. Vega nodded with approval. Set course for Earth. We need to prepare humanity for what's coming. As the Valiant's engines engaged, carrying them away from the ruins of Nova Prime, Frost looked out at the stars. For 4 millennia, humanity had walked a path of peace, believing they had evolved beyond their violent past. Now they faced a choice: remain as they were and perish, or remember the warriors they had once been and survive. The Shroud had attacked the wrong planet. They had awakened something that should have remained dormant. In trying to extinguish Project Phoenix, they had instead caused it to rise. Humanity was remembering how to fight, and the galaxy would tremble once more. On the main viewer, Earth appeared, beautiful, peaceful, unknowing of the storm that approached. For now. Send the emergency broadcast, Vega ordered. All channels, all colonies. Frost composed the message herself, her words simple yet profound. To all colonies of Earth, after 4,000 years of peace, humanity faces extinction. The enemy believes we have forgotten how to fight. It is time to remember. The Terran Defense Force was reborn. Phoenix had risen from the ashes. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, the Shroud would soon learn they had made a terrible miscalculation.